Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. The reason we're here today is to defend compassion. So we've been through a lot of changes this year. We've had a state law and we've had a state ballot. Neither one are helping patients access, especially patient access if you can't afford market rate. So the unfortunate thing is that one of the proposals that is really bad and is trailing legislation. So it's good that we're starting today because we have about 60 days of work that we're going to be doing together. So we really have to focus on getting activists in San Francisco plugged back in. Why was the plug pulled? Because we were doing too good, right? So when we lost a base in the community center, it takes us a while to get everybody in focus and back in the know. So the trailing legislation basically does a couple of things, but the one that is most tragic for patient-safe access is that it puts penalties onto any dispensary that has a compassion program. Then you have the state law that's already in place. What that does is it closes down all of your small gardens and the gardens where a lot of medical cannabis patients have been receiving what we call garden direct shares at an affordable rate or at a free rate. And we are able to grow together through SB 420. So what the current law does is it destroys all those collectives, and now they want to add something on top of it to kill the compassion programs in the legal medical cannabis structure. So they're not talking about killing compassion in the adult use that passed, they're talking about killing the compassion for the medical cannabis patients. And it's extremely tragic because most patients don't know tomorrow is the deadline to get any input in. Who here knew tomorrow was the deadline?
To really support them.
Exactly. So like a lot of politics, what they're depending on is discouragement, disinformation, and not engaging the most affected people into the process. So we have a bureau, a department/bureau of cannabis now at the state level. To get feedback, they went and did 4 different sort of public comment series. But guess 3 cities that they didn't come to? San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley, where patients are organized and have a long tradition of being activists. They only went to cities where there's just mostly industry people and people never really had the sort of connections that patients have in the Bay Area. And it's really sad because we created safe access and now other people are exploiting it for their own profit, you know? So we have to be very engaged in the next, 30 to 60 days and make sure we'll be facing a penalty for free samples. And we know that free samples is code for compassion, right? And so it's really, really, really difficult to warn people about what was about to happen. We, as Axis of Love, were out there. We were telling people, don't vote for Prop 64. They're going to shut down compassion. They're going to price patients out of the market. And the thing is, it had what we call progressive window dressing. So the uninformed progressive voter looked at it and thought, hey, legal cannabis, I'll vote for that. And that happens to us so many times over and over again as we have uninformed progressive voters who see the word cannabis and feel like, well, hey, I love that. Great. And they don't look at the devil in the details. And that's what we're discussing today, is really the devil in the details. And unfortunately, that devil in the details doesn't have a heart. Does not have a heart. Does not want to assure that our veterans, our elderly, our chronic pain, are catastrophically ill,
early Alzheimer's,
don't feel that break in safe access and affordable access. And affordable access is going to hit every patient. Who is going to pay the price of an expensive and practical law? You are. You're going to pay it when you get to the counter, because that's what ends up happening. So patients' access is being deteriorated in 3 different ways. First, the shutdown of the small communal gardens that SB 420 allowed. Second, the penalties attached to compassionate care at dispensaries and nothing to support the dispensaries that for years have been offering what's just human nature, basically passing the joint, right?
Yeah.
And then third, we're going to get hit by outrageous, the price is going to go up, and we're going to have limited options. We're going to have big mega stores, and our small, mom and pop shops are really going to get affected. So I'm hoping if you take one thing home today, it's that we have to get a call in before 5 o'clock tomorrow. What's hitting us now comes from Jerry Brown's office. And patient input...
a fake Democrat.
So one thing that is happening at the state level is that they're going to be creating a board that's supposed to have an ability to get some of the patient input. And as Axis of Love, we're very fortunate to have, met in Sacramento our friend Richard Miller, who's from a collective that we know very well. We know Lynette. We went to her court case. She runs a Christian collective that was standing up for their right to not be taxed. And he's a great person to know in Sacramento. He cares about patients, and he's running for the Bureau's advisory board. So I want to call up Richard and see what can we learn from Richard today to help us as we go on this journey for the next 2 days together until 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Thank you for having me here today. I just want to bring it forward that we're all patients, and we got to look at the compassion aspect of this. Those most affected are going to be our elderly, our young, our people of color, our people of less economic means to move forward. And because of MCRSA passing 2 years ago, it essentially abolished the collective rights for patients to have the ability to grow collectively. Now this is important because we have a lot of our farmers who secure their own strains with high CBD and other medicines that are extremely important for those patients that are most in need. Those with catastrophic illnesses, terminally ill, and those patients that are homebound or bedbound that can't have access, need access, and the only way that we can do that is to collectively grow. Because the industry is moving forward in a progressive manner, we have not had the input that we need from those patients. Those industry leaders and professionals that are running businesses are engaged with the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulations and Safety, but the patients are not being heard. I applied for the positions for the advisory board for the Bureau. However, it is not guaranteed that I'll get that position. But I do what I can to help those patients most in need. So it's my hope that I can educate further patients. It's also my belief that your voice can be heard. I was here 27 years ago up until 1999 fighting for our rights here in San Francisco. And I moved to Sacramento to lobby and help those patients most in need throughout the states, because so many counties and cities put bans forward.
That's right.
San Francisco is a sanctuary city. We should always look and keep that in mind and move forward. But it's important that patients understand and know that their voice can be heard. But it takes you, each individual, and every patient, and every caregiver, and anybody that is a loved one of a patient that's using medical cannabis to contact our governor. Phone the governor. Let them know that your rights are being interceded, and you need to have the ability to have the right to grow and cultivate your medicine collectively. It's most imperative. The voices will not be heard unless you contact them. The Bureau will take advice as far as the industry is concerned, but they must follow state regulations, and the state regulations are set forward by the legislature. So it's also important that you contact your legislatures and let them know your personal story. Let them know how it has impacted your life, and that with the sunset of collectively growing on January 1st, 2018, those patients are going to be left behind, are going to be most impacted, or yourselves, those people that don't have access, those people that can't grow their own, don't have the ability to, or live in a high dense populated city like San Francisco that don't have the cultivation rights for the abilities to grow. You rely on other cities and counties to grow, so therefore you must make your voices heard. And believe me, your voice is taken far more seriously than myself as an activist that's at the Capitol and all the local governments. You are 6 times more likely to be heard as a citizen of this state. So I urge you, contact the governor. Let them know you need your cultivation rights. Contact your boards of supervisors, contact your city council. It starts at home base and goes all the way up to the legislature. Your voice can be heard. I tell everybody to call and don't get mad. Come up with solutions. Talk to them like they're your friends. Explain them how it will heavily impact your ability to take care of your medical needs. Tell them that it will be a financial stress. I was at the joint Capitol hearing staff hearing last year for AUMA, that's Prop 64. I brought forward to the joint hearing staff, both the Senate and the Assembly, that the negative impacts of ALMA was going to affect medical patients. We now know cities and counties can get that sales tax waived if they get a state card. However, most counties only have a limited number of appointments to get those cards, so it makes it difficult to get those cards. Also, because it is limited, it only gives you that 8.5% discount. It does not remove any excise tax, such as Sacramento has a 4% cannabis use tax. Then they're going to impose a 15% ALMA tax next year to all patients. That's going to put the tax base at 27%. Not only includes that tax, but then all the cultivators are going to be paying a $9.25 tax per ounce. They're going to more likely annoy you and not take you seriously. So I urge you, contact them. You have until tomorrow by 5 o'clock to contact the Bureau to address any regulatory issues that are coming forward. This will impact patients. But also, the governor is coming out with this trailer bill. It was supposed to be released today with amendments.
He's a bastard.
So you should also contact the governor on that governor bill. That's 1578. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your support in coming out today.
Thank you.
God bless you. Very important that you contact them, make your voices be heard, make them aware that you will be heavily impacted and your medical condition will suffer because of it. They're treating it as an urgency bill, yes.
So that means they're trying to rush this through. A lot of you guys have done activism with me, and you know the rush through kind of thing that people often try to do.
Yep.
I wanted to get a little bit more from Richard too. Richard, I wanted to get a little bit more from you. I just wanted to make sure that you were able to pipe into this a little bit, because what I wanted to ask about, and I wanted to get thanks, yeah. what I wanted to ask about is if you felt like they were trying to rush it through as well, because you've got your feet on the ground in Sacramento, and I'm watching this, you know, from the city of San Francisco. And how many patients do you think actually are going to show up once this goes into a hearing?
Quite frankly, not many patients ever show up. I've been up at the Capitol for going on 11 years now, and very few patients show up. There are some industry leaders that do stand in for patients' rights, but more often than not, very few of them do. I do work at a collective called the Therapeutic Alternative. We support patients' rights. Nat Davey supports patients' rights, and I'm also the state director for American Alliance for Medical Cannabis, which is also an organization that is dedicated to patients' rights. Other than that, there are not a lot of patients showing up. There's just a few of us activists that are going directly in on patients' rights from what we hear from rallies like today, you know, and we bring that stuff forward.
And that's one reason why I thought it was so important to do this rally today and to get together again tomorrow. Some of you guys have traveled to Sacramento with me and gotten on the bus, and you know, we've only been able to afford to do that a couple of times. But when we got up there, we thought, well, we're going to see all these other patient groups, and you know, we'll just be one of the patient groups in the room. And we were the patient group in the room, and that's a sad reality. And the reality is that every person that speaks up for a patient isn't speaking up for hundreds like we say when we go up in San Francisco City Hall. They're speaking for thousands of people that aren't able to be there, that would be extremely upset if they understood that they would no longer be able to receive medicine from an SB 420 collective garden. And a lot of patients don't understand that. It's just not, it's not out there in the material. I did some research before, you know, me and Richard were coming here to speak, and I went onto Normal's website and I went onto these cannabis websites to see if they were going to be educating people that there was no longer going to be collective grows for patients, and if they were going to be educating patients that, you know, tomorrow's the deadline. Everybody should pipe in, right? Because this is kind of what I expect national drug policy organizations to do. I feel that that's what people pay them to do, in a sense, right? If they donate, they think, oh, they're going to tell everybody what's going on. Unfortunately, we've learned through the years that that's not what's going on. The only petitions that they have up right now are the manufacturing.
It's interesting, for every patient that shows up at the Capitol, they represent about 1,000 patients. And there are so few activists that go up there that are patient-driven because they have bought into the system, which is fine because we need that system to get access to patients. But at the same time, we got to remember the patients out there most in need are not being addressed. And that's where we have the shortfall of patients coming forward and educating the legislature. That's where we need to, as patients, bind together, write letters, contact your legislator, contact the governor, let them know how it's going to negatively impact you, and move forward in a positive direction. It's all about making solutions, but if you're not there to give them the answers, then there's no question.
Exactly.
I called them up and they hung up on me.
He's put on compassionate care at our retail outlets, that they're supported if they're doing compassionate care. We want to see incentives, not penalties. We want to make sure that patients are allowed to collectively grow. We want to let them know that this is such a dangerous time for disabled people. Look, we have this guy in the White House.
A hot
We have
mess.
a guy in the White House who does not care about disabled people's survival.
An orange hot mess.
Right? So we're looking at people getting cut left and right from all sorts of health care that they're going to be needing, and costs rising, and a really depressing time, you know, as usual, to be dealing with having more health care cut. And so we have to stress when we call that this is cutting into our health care. This is cutting into our well-being, our ability. And it also, one thing that I know a lot of folks here worked on was Prop 215. And this is a really, really sad day for you all, and I know that, to hear that patients aren't being heard, that there'll be penalties for compassion, then small collective grows will not be, tolerated. That it seems to go against the very grain of Prop 215. So it's okay to bring up, hey, I worked on Prop 215, etc., when you call today or tomorrow morning, and let them know that, hey, this is not affordable health care. This is the medical structure that the state's supposed to be working on. If they want to do something crazy with adult use, hey, that's not our ballpark.
Yeah, but then they're deciding what conditions get covered. They might say the only condition that they'll cover is if you have a half an hour to live.
And that's why we
know what
want
I'm
to
saying?
get people like Richard on the advisory board.
I have Lyme disease. They're not going to give me
so that they can disrupt that conversation and say Prop 215 was essential because it allowed for any medical condition that medical cannabis helped. I saw a hand up. Oscar.
Yes. What about these people that are making money that care about patients? There should be a loophole where, for example, they always give you samples to try out their product, right?
Right.
That's the same as compassion, if you put the wording right, depending on what dictionary you're using as a lawyer.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that's how they're twisting it. That's why I'm saying the devil's in the detail. They're not saying no compassionate care. They're saying no free samples. So a lot of people here are enjoying the free samples recently at the dispensaries, right? They're going to stop that.
However,
that's the whole sort of... Hold on.
They are going to stop that. However, there is a way by which dispensaries can do compassion, and they can mark it down to a penny. And as long as they charge something for it, they can still give compassionate access. I know that some people can't even afford that penny, but with Alma, it does give you the ability to give away an ounce. So there is ways of doing that.
Why should the dispensary have to do it? Why aren't the companies that are making the product do that instead?
We're working on trying to get an implemented compassion program going, and I spoke on this Friday at the Bureau's regulation feedback. And that was one of the discussions brought up in topic, was to make sure that we have an ability to provide this compassionate medicine to patients. However, this is mandated by the legislature, so the Bureau is really got her hands tied. So the only way they can do that is to operate at a way that you can give compassionate medicine at a significantly reduced price.
Yeah, right now they want a reasonable compensation.
UMA's going to take that out in a second, because UMA has a category which does not allow you to sell anything under market rate. So while they're saying that you might be able to do that, you look over it, because they're going to come at us with that.
Yes, you're right. I know.
It probably will come, but it will be addressed by the legislature. I know that has been discussed at all branches of government, including the governor's office. So I am confident that by the time January 1st, 2018, we will have some sort of compassionate program, whether it be from the manufacturer, distributor, or whether it comes from the cultivation site or the dispensary. There will be a mechanism by which that will be had, but it will not be had unless patients like yourselves contact the governor, contact the legislature.
Wouldn't it just be better to pass an initiative with no jail time, like, MCLR or something like that?
MCLR, I was a proponent of, and I did sign on.
Let's get it in there. Let's find a billionaire.
John Lee did a phenomenal program. Unfortunately, we did not have the financing to get that on. But because AUMA was passed, it's extremely difficult, almost impossible to get that overturned unless it goes back to the voters.
I got to leave the state.
And I'm quite frankly, if it goes back to the voters, I'm quite worried how the aspect of that will happen and how it will affect patients even worse. We think here in California we have a lot of problems, but quite frankly, we are lucky here in California because having just come back from Washington and having gone back to Washington successively for the last 5 years, and meeting with people all over the United States, let me tell you, there are states that are far more worse than us.
They would have been better off with Alma. You know, that's like a Texas style.
We are blessed, but at the same time, we must always continue to protect our rights.
Alma would have worked in a redneck state like Texas, you know, those backward states.
Well, actually, some of the backward states are looking at things that might even be better.
They are.
It's interesting how cannabis law has rolled out across the states, no doubt. Russell?
How are they allowed to gut 215 and then we can't overturn OMA? I mean, what is that? They gutted.
So we're actually
they
stuck with it.
Actually, they did not gut 215.
That's not what my doctor
Prop
told me.
215 is an affirmative defense, which means that you have the ability to go into court and testify in your court hearing that you have medical needs for that and you could use that as evidence. It did not give you any cultivation rights. It just gives you an affirmative defense to defend yourself in a court. Yes, that comes at a great cost because you have to go to court and defend.
Right.
And like myself, losing everything, having to defend my rights,
Bullshit.
but I still won my case.
Yeah, right.
But
still,
needless to say, SB 420 is the one that really gave us the right.
There you go, and that's where a lot of
cultivate.
patients get confused. It's not Prop 215, it's
SB 420. Why are they celebrating 420 anymore?
So SB 420 was passed by our Senate and our Assembly, and it made it through both houses and was passed and signed by governor and law. Those can be overturned because those were statutes mandated by the government where Prop 215 was an affirmative defense.
By the voters.
That cannot be overturned, and that has not been overturned. We still have that right to use it as a medical defense.
So we can't grow 200 plants for each other anymore, though, right?
No, that collective model will expire.
SB 420.
Will expire January 1st, 2018. It was part of SB 420. We've had it pretty easy, and because of the abuses of those people that were growing for greed and not declaring their income, paying their taxes, this is why the legislatures have come down so hard, and that's why the industry is moving forward. Let it be known the industry is moving forward. They are moving forward fast, and they are being heard. So in order for you to be heard, you got to contact the governor.
Shouldn't we just call for a boycott of all Prop 64 weed? I am. I'm not going to buy it.
There's no way to do that. You'll never stop the black market. You'll never stop the dispensary.
That's where I'm going, is the black market.